Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I'm going to do something that we rarely, almost never, ever do. I'm going to play the audio of our last two DVDs, our most recent DVDs. Now, I'm only going to play about half of the audio. Obviously, if I play the whole thing, why buy the cow if you get the milk free? But the point is, I'm going to try to really encourage you. Look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't get all of the information by just listening to radio. You can't do it. Yes, I'm going to encourage you to get my charts. You can download those free. prophecyclub.com in the download section. Excellent, awesome charts. As a matter of fact, as I search around on the internet, there is, in my opinion, my very, very, very humble opinion is I don't think anybody has prophecy charts even remotely close to as good as my charts. So you can download those, but here, at the end of the day, you want to understand Bible prophecy. You want to understand the very, very best of Bible prophecy, and I think it's in my new DVD. Then you got to get it. Yeah, how do I say? I feel like just jumping up and down, hollering and screaming, and saying you got to get it. You got to get it. You got to get it. It's just that good. It really, really is. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to offer both of our brand new DVDs just here made in the last couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, I think they just finished editing them 2 days ago. Brand new for an amazing offer. Okay, here's the deal. The newest one, 17 Secrets in the Feasts and in the Trumpets. Topics are the coronation of Jesus, the barley and wheat harvest. I promise you don't know this. Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Feast revelations in the last 7 months. You don't know that either. It's all new revelation, and it ain't been out no place. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Matter of fact, Then Bree just did, I thought, an amazing job in her new DVD called Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Bree's mother was a descendant of the patriot, Patrick Henry, and she reveals shocking, never-released private family records and bloodlines to give you a true history, how God used Patrick Henry and Donald Trump to save America. Henry, like Trump, was a fantastic orator. Henry could have become our first president. Henry and Trump are both blue-collar populist leaders. Bree is going to show you in this DVD how Patrick Henry was even more the hero than American history led him out to be, even more so than Jefferson, Washington. He instigated the revolution, saved America from the control of the global elite, much like Trump is battling today. Matter of fact, I think the thing that I learned is the most is the same things that we are battling today, the same ruling elite, the same evil Democrats on the wrong side. He was doing the same thing. And Bree was extremely well researched. I'm going to say these are both really, really good DVDs. $30 each, normally gift of $60. However, get them at prophecyclub.com right now. Both of them gift of $45. Yes, it goes for a good cause, but you're going to be very informed. You will really, I promise, you will like both these DVDs. Really good. Prophecyclub.com. Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? And 17 Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Here, I'll give you a little bit more. 17 Secrets in the 7 Feasts and the 7 Trumpets. You want to understand what's going on? Get those 2 DVDs. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go on over and start playing part of the audio of the DVD, Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Dr. Bree Keyton.
Outspoken Patrick Henry did not care what people thought. Henry's famous speech against the Stamp Act had the phrase, Caesar had his Brutus, and King George So this was a speech against King George, first big major speech in the House of Burgesses. And oh my gosh, they were angry. Patrick implied that the king should be assassinated, and the Speaker of the House screaming treason. It was total chaos. And Henry shouted back, if this be treason, make the most of it. So there he is shouting there. But he was a very powerful speaker. Henry wrote, finding the men of weight adverse to opposition, and the commencement of the tax at hand, and that no person was likely to step forth, I determined to venture and alone, unadvised and unassisted, gosh, that sounds like Trump, doesn't it? One man alone against all the wicked of the world. This is Henry too. Violent debates ensued. Many threats were uttered and much abuse cast on me by the party for submission. You know that the deep state just about had America beat down to the ground, and they were getting ready to do a total takeover. But God had another plan, didn't he? God had a wonderful plan. So Henry goes on to say there was a violent contest and a fight in there. The ministerial party were overwhelmed. The great point of resistance to British taxation was universally established in the colonies. This brought on the war, which finally separated the two countries and gave independence to ours. The incomparable Patrick Henry, young, silver-tongued, changed the course of history. As the first to defy the king and all the wealthy who wanted to submit to Britain, he stirred the fires of revolution. Jefferson was 22 years old, a teenage friend of Henry's. He watched the display, and he said, "The splendid display of Mr. Henry's talents as a popular orator, they were great indeed, such as I have never heard from any other man." What about Donald Trump? There were multiple bad groups in Charlottesville, he said. Remember when that attack came? And they said it was the white supremacists and all the press, all the politics screaming and screaming. And Trump said there were multiple groups. And what did they do? Excoriate him in the press. But he was right. Remember? There were other groups there. Antifa was there, primarily the ones stirring up the trouble. And the press covered that up, but they bloody well knew it. They knew. So what did they do? You know, they came against Trump, just like they came against Patrick Henry, shouting, impeach him, kill him, destroy him. But Trump said, nope, lock her up, build the wall. Trump is something of a hero. Patrick Henry led the young members to overwhelm the corrupt loyalist gentry of the House of Burgesses, much like Trump is leading the people to overcome the wickedness of the deep state, whose plans were to take America to nothing and absorb us as a global entity so that we would no longer be a sovereign nation. You see, everything Henry experienced back in his day is exactly what we're experiencing today. And this is the reason I'm making this speech, to make people aware that we're seeing a repetition of history. And so that we can stand as Henry did, to be strong and take our nation back. Henry wrote at least 7 resolutions against the Stamp Act, declaring anyone who voted for the king's taxes was an enemy of the people. That was a strong statement in that day. He made a call to arms. He was the first to do it. You're hearing a lot of firsts here today, aren't you? He was the first to do a lot of things. And he called Virginia to raise a militia to replace the British troops. So he was truly a patriot who wanted America. It was just the colonies then, but he had a bigger vision than that, to thrive. The power and anointing of Trump and Henry's rhetoric is a real thing. Trump and Henry are men for such a time as this. And yes, the words of Henry and the actions of Henry live on through today and can be an inspiration to us. First, it gives us an opening for heaven to advance when we have godly men as leaders that helps us as a people. Righteousness can be reestablished. The glory of God can be released, and one good man with truth and passion of heaven on his side can change the world. And it's not just the leaders, it's us. One good man can change the world. Now, George Washington and Richard Henry Lee, who were in the House of Burgesses, and they were royalists previously, changed around. You see, one good man like King David, he can change a rabble of soldiers nobody wanted into mighty men. And this can happen now and today. But Henry led them to stand against the Stamp Act, and they changed sides. Henry called the first who broke the influence of that aristocracy, which those men were part of, yet they changed their minds. And they began to love the colonies and the hope and dream for freedom and liberty. Trump has known right now, in the last year and a half, he's been busy breaking the power of the elite who only wish to destroy. Now, it was interesting, after they took the vote, Henry left the House of Burgesses and he went to Williamsburg a day early. But what he did before he left, he gave his 7 written resolutions to the Virginia Gazette, which was the local newspaper, and they shared all of it with all the other 13 colonies. Anything good went to everybody, and it spread, and now his resolutions to stand against the king was an unstoppable call to arms. This had never been thought of. It had never been done. The royalists wanted to keep appeasing and appealing and bowing their knee. But listen, one good man can change the world. Are you listening? This is for you. He gave voice to the injustices of British taxation and injustice. An entire continent heard the lion's roar, and he was called the Lion of Liberty. The Stamp Act opponents formed secret societies called the Sons of Liberty. What a name, huh? They formed groups that met around what they call liberty trees, and they would burn effigies of government officials and so on in order to make a loud statement to Great Britain. Now, we know the elite fear liberty, don't we? Because they gain their power through oppression and abuse and injustice. But Henry was a radical. He came against the old guard, the royalists. The elite fear Trump too, don't they? You see, the House of Burgesses was thrown out by the royal governor at that time. They literally were thrown out for voting against the Stamp Act. And then they reconvened across the street at Raleigh Tavern, which is where all the real business was done. And they toasted 13 times for the 13 colonies. And then they voted unanimously to boycott all British imports. They sent a warning to the British Parliament. An attack made on one of our sister colonies is an attack on all. Then the northern colonies joined Virginia. Now, Virginia was right in the middle of the colonies, but they were considered southern. But to have the northerners join them, you can see the extent of the problem. They enjoyed them boycotting Britain. Henry planted hemp and flax on his farms to make his own clothing, and he installed spinning wheels and a loom and wore his own cloth just to show everybody he wasn't going to wear royal clothing that the king had authorized and taxed. Then we have the Boston Tea Party. Everybody's heard of that. It occurred in several cities, not one. Britain banned all town meetings after that. So the people weren't allowed to meet. They couldn't talk. They couldn't communicate because they were being watched day and night. Didn't we talk about this earlier? The surveillance society. And the British closed the port to purposely starve the people. Then they quartered British troops, and and they spied and so on and so on. They seized lands. They took away self-government. I'm just scanning through it. But they passed immoral laws forcing the people to follow them. Now, is that happening today here? We have Obamacare. This is an immoral law. And it forced people to pay whether they got the care or not. And, you can afford it. It's affordable care. Right. Nobody could afford it. The companies had to shut down. People couldn't afford it. And then they said, if you can't afford it, you have to pay anyway, even if you don't have it. And that's illegal, by the way. But they passed it. You can keep your doctor. Really? Nobody got to keep their doctors. Then doctors were forced to perform abortions. Doctors and nurses were forced to take the chip to keep their jobs, and it happened right here in this city and in cities all across this nation, and they were afraid, and many took the chip. Schools were were forced to teach wicked curriculum that came down from the government to pervert our children so that they grow up and destroy our nation. Now, Henry's resolution solution. Patrick Henry turned to God in times of trouble. He was a fighter. He was a patriot. It wasn't that. But he called for the national day of fasting and prayer, and everybody did it. He was the first to do this. Trump brought much prayer and peace to the inauguration also. He was the first president to have so many Christians on that stage, so many Christian speakers, so much Christian prayer, have his mother's Christian Bible. You see, other presidents didn't do that sort of thing. But you see, we have an actual Christian in that White House. Amazing. Now, the tyrant, King George III, put a price on the heads of all the patriots. When they petitioned Parliament, the king put a price on their heads. Patrick Henry, Washington, John Hancock, Samuel Adams, John Adams. And the king said, no pardon is possible for these men. The punishment will be hanging. They'll be taken down, bowels torn out, beheaded, bodies cut in 4 quarters. He was pretty mad, wasn't he? And so Patrick Henry made a speech, and he said, the British assurances of benevolent intentions would prove a snare to your feet. You see, all his speeches were peppered with Scripture. Now we make a call to awake, to humble ourselves and pray. And Patrick Henry said these words, which I think hold true today. Take them to heart. Patrick Henry, in the day of King George III, the hideous tyrant, the insane leader, Henry said this, the liberties of a people never were, nor ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. Is this true? Yes. Is it true today as it was in that day? We have the secret FISA court and other horrible things that are going on in secret. I'm glad that Trump is letting you know what happened finally and at last to JFK. He's releasing those papers. They threatened him, don't do it. And then all the secret stuff being done against him with that dossier, that fake dossier. Oh, you better not release that. You better not tell that. He released it. I mean, this man wants the liberty and truth to be known, does he not? You see, we should thank God for this window of opportunity our God has given us. Now we're going to talk Trump's rallying cry, one nation under God, America first. Many Christian speakers. We are a Christian nation. That's the announcement he made to counteract the previous regime. And what happened at the inauguration for Trump? There was so much opposition you never read about because the newspapers, the deep state, they don't let you know. But there were thugs and Antifa and passive police. The press took pictures early in the morning when no one had arrived yet and lied and said there was a small crowd at that inauguration. But there was a massive crowd. People were trying to attend and they were beat up. Women and children beat up trying to get past the barriers to get in to attend. That sure wasn't ever in the news. They were beat up. And some of the good press weren't even let in. They were kept out. The police, who were ordered to stand down and allow this thuggery, did nothing. But you see, it's all changing now. We want to make America great again, don't we? Patrick Henry's deep sensitivity to threats against liberty had already radicalized him well before most other revolutionary leaders. Henry's enemies, the Loyalists and Tories, called him nefarious and highly criminal. Just because he wanted liberty. What do they call Trump? All the same names. All terrible names. Now I want to tell you how we began down that ultimate path to liberty. There was an event in Culpeper, Virginia. Patrick Henry, a circuit rider, a man who defended the defenseless, a man who fought in court for godly people, who won every case he ever tried. How about that? He was riding on his horse into a little town called Culpeper, Virginia. And there, he got off his horse in shock. There were 12 preachers in the center of town tied to whipping posts. And while he watched, unable to stop it without himself being killed, they were whipped to death. Why? They refused to take the king's license. They were preaching the truth from the pulpit, as we are doing today. They were telling the people the truth. And the king would not tolerate the truth. He would not have it. Therefore, they were murdered. Patrick got back on his horse, and he rode up to Richmond, Virginia, and made the famous speech everybody knows. It's the one tiny thing you've ever been allowed to know about Patrick Henry, but I'm going to tell you the whole truth about that as well. The famous speech was March 23rd, 1775, the Second Continental Congress at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia. He arrived just beside himself, enraged against the tyrant in Britain, righteous anger. And they started their debate. Some thought peace was imminent. Oh, how absurd. Henry stood up in the third pew, left central section of the assembly, and a clergyman who was present described the scene of his speech in just full of scripture. Henry understood the power of the word, and he used the word, because we know this, don't we, dear ones? The word is power. And Henry knew. First, he presented 3 resolutions. Muster a well-regulated militia. You see, he's presenting ideas nobody ever thought of. Second, no more taxes for the king's militia. And third, the colony was to be put in a state of defense and arm a militia. So there was a heated debate. Then Henry began with his speech. And I will read you the precise words of the clergyman who was present at that marvelous speech that changed the world, literally changed the world. Henry arose with an unearthly fire burning in his eye, this time with a majesty and with all that self-possession by which he was so invariably distinguished. The tendons of his neck stood out white and rigid like whipcords. Mr. President, that would be president of the assembly there, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she informs us and transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Henry paused. I know of no way to judge the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the past 10 years to justify the hopes which with these gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves in the House. Is it that insidious smile? See, the king was known to smile in a hideous way when they would petition, please, stop taxing us to death. Please give us liberty. Please let us run our colony. Please stop locking up the poor and taking their land. So he would give this horrible smile, and it was known. And this is the reference here. With which our petition has been lately received. Trust it not, sir. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with those warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to work of love and reconciliation? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves any longer. Henry's voice rose. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne. We have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, we must fight. Henry paused again, staring heavenward as the roof beams of the church. The delegates sat in stunned silence, many believing they had heard a voice as from heaven uttering the words, "We must fight," as the doom of faith. He stood silently as if in prayer, the tension of his listeners building, awaiting an inevitable eruption. "Gentlemen may cry peace, but there is no peace." His voice grew louder. The walls of the building and all within seemed to shake and rock in its tremendous vibrations. "The war is actually begun. The next gale from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms." And there was literal thunder. Literal thunder. "Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it the gentlemen wish? What would they have?" After a solemn pause, he stood like an embodiment of helplessness. His form was bowed, a condemned galley slave with fetters awaiting his doom. "Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery?" He raised his eyes and chained his hands toward heaven and prayed. "Forbid it, Almighty God." He then turned toward the timid loyal.
Well, I'm going to have to break in right there, but I do encourage you to get these 2 DVDs. First one, my newest one, my latest one, only 2 weeks old, 17 Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Topics are the coronation of Jesus, the barley and wheat harvest, that's real important, secrets in the feasts and the trumpets, feast revelations in the last 7 months, very, very good. The last 3 New Testament and best 3 Old Testament verses on the rapture. 17 secrets in the feasts and in the trumpets. Also, from Dr. Bree Keyton, Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Bree's mother was a descendant of the patriot Patrick Henry. Now, I think what you're going to really get from this, it's going to help you to see the plans of the enemy from the perspective of looking through the vision of history through Patrick Henry right on down to Trump, and you're going to say, oh my goodness, he was battling the same things that we're battling today. That's right, still working for world government, still working for a global elite. It's amazing, so many things. Believe me, you're going to love both these DVDs, both of them. Valued at $60, prophecyclub.com, both for a gift of $45. 17 secrets in the feasts and the trumps, and Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Valued at $60, gift of $45, prophecyclub.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. The final answer to the rapture question. Definitive proof that America is in Revelation. 7 signs to spot the Antichrist early. The surprising final plague on earth. And kings and priests. What's the third woe? Who are the nations? Are all the saints kings and priests, or some kings, some priests? Both DVDs, gift of $40 at prophecyclub.com. The Watchman's Trumpet will allow you to gift free coupons to friends to watch Prophecy Club DVDs online. They get saved, and it counts toward your book of works because it was done in cooperation with the Prophecy Club. When you donate for Watchman's Trumpet, end your gift in a 7, and we'll give you 20% extra viewing credits for helping create the program. The cost to write the program ranges from $70,000 to $150,000 from 2 to 6 months to write. Once Watchman's Trumpet is online, you can set up your account for $1 and get 4 credits, or you may choose a larger block of credits. You can immediately begin to watch any Prophecy Club DVD or send out free gift coupons to others. Send your best gift to prophecyclub.com now to help us write the program. Make the last digit of your donation a 7, and we'll give you 20% extra viewing credits in the new Watchman's Trumpet program when it comes online. At prophecyclub.com, prophecyclub.com, Watchman's Trumpet.